What if I told you that we tend to make life harder and more complicated than it really needs to be? But each of us has an amazing power, a gift, to choose an easier, simpler path. On a recent trip, I brought along a book on Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and it's entitled The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. I'll leave a link to the book in the description below. All this was really my first introduction to Essentialism as a philosophy. And as I read it, I realized I've been implementing it to one degree or another all my life, but more so in the past few years. And since reading it, I've tried to adopt it in every area of my life. The core theme of the book is less but better. So much of our lives has become driven by the pursuit of things or the pursuit of accomplishments and achievements in our personal and professional lives, that in many cases we become poorly equipped to be able to prioritize. We live in a world overwhelmed by the many choices and options and things that sparkle around us, each competing for our time and attention. What if I told you life didn't have to be so hectic? We didn't have to allow ourselves to become or feel overwhelmed. And it all boils down to the choices we make. Instead of making choices reactively or reflexively saying yes to requests out of some sense of social obligation, Essentialism helps us to distinguish between the vital few and the trivial many, because there are so many choices that simply are not essential at all. The result of reactive decision making is that we become caught up in so many different things that our energy is divided into many different activities. The result is that we have the unfulfilling experience of making a millimeter's progress in 1 million different trivial directions. In our fast-paced world, as we try to keep up with all the demands on our time and energy, we can feel overwhelmed, stretched too thin. I know because I've experienced it myself, particularly in my early career, holding down multiple jobs, side hustles, and just trying to get and stay ahead. The idea of essentialism is that through a more careful evaluation of requests and demands that are placed upon our time, we can be much more selective in what we choose to pursue and what we choose to allow in our lives. And this is true both of the stuff that we bring into our lives and the demands that others would put upon us, that so often we agree to willingly out of a desire to be a good citizen, a good friend or neighbor. A more careful, rigorous evaluation of our decisions can help us achieve better outcomes in those things that we deliberately choose to do. And that might be in our personal lives or socially, certainly within our careers. Something that I thought was really important as I read this was that the author referenced the 80-20 rule, and I want to go into that. Studies have found time and again that 80% of our success in the advancement of personal or professional priorities is the result of just 20% of our efforts. So that has to force the question, why would it not make sense to carefully evaluate the 80% of activity that yields limited or no results? What if we could reevaluate those choices and prioritize and realign them so that we could dedicate more productive time to those actions within the 20% column that yield the highest, best results for us? It all starts with developing the ability to say no gracefully. How many times have you accepted an invitation to attend a meeting in your workplace that really didn't have anything to do with your role in the organization? I'm guilty. Or how many times have you accepted an invitation to a social gathering out of a sense of obligation, which pulled you away from completing something that was essential to you? The advent of social media has caused our society to be connected in ways that we never could have imagined. And as a result, there are more inputs, more requests, and demands made on our productive time than ever before. 100 years ago, people had more time to make better decisions about the things that they committed to or the things that they were going to pursue. They didn't have to face the dizzying number of options and choices that we have to confront in our modern world all day, every day. Our productive time quiet time for contemplation and planning, as well as our time for rest and reflection, is more interrupted than ever by emails, text messages, and calls. And so how many of these demands are entirely and completely trivial and only serve to distract us from applying our efforts to more essential things? And if I'm being honest, I have to admit, I'm as guilty as anyone to succumbing to the demands of social and professional expectations. I mean, like anybody else, I wanted to demonstrate loyalty and commitment to the organization. And I believe in helping other people. But helping others advance their priorities or objectives while neglecting my own is a bad plan. Now, does that sound like an expression of self-interest? Maybe. But I think we have to ask a very important question. Who exactly is going to tackle your priorities or my priorities if we don't do it ourselves? Nothing that we're responsible for just does itself. And if we don't prioritize our own time and energies, someone else will do it for us, just not for our benefit. That seems to be a reliable law of the universe, particularly in today's modern world. I'll give you some examples. I happen to be an Army veteran, and I belong to several veterans organizations. I love the work that they do. And I find myself consistently invited to join other service clubs and organizations within the community. And the pitch is always the same. It only requires a minimum investment of time and energy. But in actuality, they're looking for officers for the organization, and the commitment is always way beyond what was advertised. Don't get me wrong, they all do important work, but I have to ask the qualifying question, is that where I'm going to make my highest, best contribution? Does what they have proposed enhance or distract me from accomplishing my goals and priorities? Knowing what I know now about essentialism, most of the time the answer is pretty clear. So essentialism is a process of rigorous evaluation and contemplation of those things that would exert themselves on our time and attention, those commitments that we would be asked to make. And they would have to stand the scrutiny of the question as to whether they fall into the column of the trivial many or the essential few. So now let's take a minute to discuss the 90% rule. It's possible to make a single decision that will then make 1,000 decisions for you in the future by simply choosing to apply and live by the 90% rule. You can apply the 90% rule to just about every decision or dilemma that comes your way as you evaluate an option. Think about the most important criteria for that decision and give it a score between 0 and 100. Anything that you rate below 90 or 90% is a hard no. If the option isn't an absolute yes, I must do this, then it has to fall into a clear and unambiguous no. It's that extreme criteria that is going to allow you to clearly understand and apply the 90% rule. You can do this gracefully and hopefully without bruising relationships. But the more you apply the 90% rule, the more you say no gracefully, the better you get at it. So the 90% rule becomes the tool that helps you learn to say yes to no. Of course, this means that you will be declining some opportunities that may in fact be good. It's just the recognition that you have to realign your available time, energy, and attention. But remember, this is all about adopting a process that will allow you to focus your limited time, energy, and effort. We live in a world where personal and professional opportunities abound, and contrary to reports, none of us can be in two places at once. All of us have only 24 hours in a day. It's really up to us to set priorities, boundaries, and make discerning choices. So that gets us to another essential chapter in this book, the sunk cost bias. One of the hurdles that we run into is the effect of the sunk cost bias. And what that basically means is we are reluctant to make a change to a situation because we're distracted by the investment that we've already put into that situation. Now, that situation could be a relationship or it could be stuff. I have a friend who has 10 or 11 junk cars and trucks out in front of his house. Over time, he acquired them with the idea that he was going to fix them up and flip them for a profit. His place is now a junkyard, and I'm not aware of him successfully fixing or selling any of them. And I know it would be very difficult for him to part with any of them. And for some of us, that's why we can't clean out our closet. We have clothes that we haven't worn in years, clothes that don't fit. We struggle to throw things out because of the principle of the sunk costs bias. Studies have shown that we assign greater value to those old clothes that we cling to than they're actually worth. For others, the sunk costs bias is the reason why some of us have 1, 2, or 3 storage units full of stuff that we just can't part with. And in some instances, stuff we've forgotten we even have. The sunk cost bias marries us to things and circumstances that often were bad decisions in the first place. An example would be a bad investment that we keep throwing money into hoping for a turnaround, or that home repair that we keep throwing money to but can't seem to bring across the finish line. We have to learn to be able to flip the script on how we think about these things and ask the tough question, if I didn't already own this thing, would I buy it again today? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is clear and it's no. Changing our way of thinking about these circumstances can help us clean out the closet of our life. And I know it's easier said than done. This is hard stuff. But think about your closet and the things that are there. We hang on to so many things that we'll no longer wear or just don't fit. But to use the closet analogy, if our closets are disorderly and they have all of these things, but we're the only one who puts things in it, think about the condition of our personal and professional lives where we have other people putting things into it, things and projects that they don't want, and all of it just stacks up and causes unnecessary stress and distraction for us. But the good news is, we have the power to change it. The work that I've done on this channel has caused me to learn a lot of new things, and one of those things is the editing of my videos. I started off pretty shaky, but I'm improving every day. Through applying the principle of essentialism, we can edit our lives and literally cut out or remove those components or pieces that don't make sense or don't enhance what we're trying to achieve. That's a process of editing, figuring out what's essential and removing those things that are trivial or distractions, allowing us to reclaim time and apply it to essential things like family and faith and being our most productive selves. And like I said, I have not lived essentialism as a philosophy all of my life, but I know it's an approach that can enhance our success both personally and professionally, and importantly, help us achieve and incorporate a process of making rigorous, discerning decisions as we consider our choices. I think developing these skills can help anybody, regardless of age or the season of life that you're in. I hope this information has been useful to you. If you liked it, please hit the like and subscribe button and the bell to get notified every time I post a new video. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the beaches.